Edexcel A-Level Maths, Pure Paper 1, June 2022, question 7. For part I, given that P and Q are integers, such that PQ is even, we need to use algebra to prove by contradiction that at least one of P or Q is even. So, proof by contradiction, we're going to start by doing the opposite of what we're trying to prove. So we're going to suppose that there exists P and Q in the integers such that PQ is even and PQ are both odd. Okay, so instead of saying at least one of them is even, we're going to go with them both being odd. If this is the case, then P is going to equal 2m plus 1 and Q would equal 2n plus 1, where m and n are integers. So this is just our way of writing odd numbers. Now if we multiply them together to get PQ, we've got 2m plus 1 times 2n plus 1, which would give us 4mn plus 2m plus 2n plus 1. We can factorise 2 out of those first three terms, so we get two lots of 2mn plus m plus n plus 1 at the end. But this is just 2 times an integer plus 1, which is our definition of an odd number. So PQ is odd, which is a contradiction because we're saying that PQ is even. Hence, it can't be the case that P and Q are both odd. So we've just shown that if PQ is even, at least one of P or Q is even. Be very careful when you're answering these questions to make sure you put down the fact that you've got the contradiction. You need to write that down. And then at the end, just make sure that you write down exactly what it is that you've proved. For part 2, given that x and y are integers such that x is smaller than 0 and x plus y all squared is smaller than 9x squared plus y squared, we need to show that y is larger than 4x. So let's start with the second inequality, x plus y all squared smaller than 9x squared plus y squared. I'm going to square the left-hand side, so we get x squared plus 2 lots of xy plus y squared, which is still smaller than 9x squared plus y squared. Now, as we've got multiples of x squared and y squared on both sides, we're going to subtract x squared and y squared, which will leave us with 2xy smaller than 8x squared. And let's just divide by 2 to make this a bit easier to see. We've got xy is smaller than 4x squared. Now, as we've got x on both sides, we're going to divide by this x, but we are told that x is smaller than 0. And when we've got an inequality, if we are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, that inequality is going to flip. And we need to make sure for this question that we write that down and show why we're going to do this. So dividing by a negative x flips the sign. So dividing this through, we end up with y on the left, we end up with 4x on the right, and the inequality flips. So we've now got y is larger than 4x as required. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to the Doing Maths channel to keep up to date with all the latest releases.